right, good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us for this morning's play-by-play at Katmai National Park and Preserve. Right now we are on the lower river platform hoping to share some of the brown bear stories that we have on the Brooks River. My name is Ranger Anella.
And I'm Ranger Dave.
And we're so happy that you can join us in this centennial year. Just this past August, the National Park Service celebrated 100 years of the service, and we are celebrating all year today, and we're thankful that you can join us. This wouldn't be possible without the support of Explore.org. It's the whole reason why we have these webcams on different areas on the Brooks River so that we can observe the bear stories that a lot of you have come to know and love. So, good shout out to Explore. Thanks.
That's right. And so, if you're not familiar with the play-by-play setup, we'll be kind of narrating the bear action as we see it unfold in front of us. We won't necessarily be able to get into, discuss, and answer your individual questions, but if you do have questions, feel free to post them there. There's really a wealth of information from other bear viewers, and they may be able to answer the question. We also will check in periodically, and we may be able to talk about some things that we see you discussing in the chat board. So we'll go for about an hour, and we got started a little late today. There was a ton of bear action just 30 minutes ago. In the last hour, I think we've seen 6 families of bears on the river, and I think they knew we were going to broadcast because they all just left.
We wanted to try something new because of all of the activity that we've been seeing in the lower river. During this time of year, with the sockeye salmon that so heavily came upstream in early July and late June, now those sockeye are spawned out. And what that means is that they've gone upriver, they've mated, and that was their whole life's purpose was just to mate. And so within just a matter of weeks, a lot of those salmon have now died, and they're slowly making their way back downriver. Originally they were bright silver, and now they are really, really bright red. So the reason why they're called red salmon.
Yeah, we can actually see them in the river. I don't know if the camera will pick it up quite as well as our eyes do, but they are starting to float back down the river. We've seen them be washed over the falls, and they're now, instead of congregating below the falls, they're congregating at the lower river here. So the bears know that. The bears are incredibly intelligent. They remember these patterns from previous years. So they're going to congregate here as well. And we're starting to see a lot of the bears that left in August to follow those salmon to their spawning grounds. We're starting to see those bears come back.
So salmon are really the lifeblood of Katmai. I like to compare it to they're the heartbeat of Katmai. When the silver salmon come in June and July, they're carrying lots of nutrients that come from the ocean, and they bring life to this park. And without the salmon, we wouldn't have bears. We wouldn't have really big brown bears as we do on the river at this time of year. So just like blood that becomes oxygenated and is used up, salmon also turn red, and they distribute that nutrients to the bears and to the ecology and here.
That's right. And the salmon, they're what really make a difference between these bears being brown bears and grizzly bears. Grizzly and brown bear is the same species, essentially the same animal, but the difference is brown bear gets its nutrition from coastal resources, from things like salmon or clams or marine mammals, and because of that they're able to grow much larger.
How large?
Up to 1,500 pounds. Some bears on Kodiak are 1,500 pounds. I think the biggest bear we have here is probably going to top out around 1,300 pounds.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Absolutely massive.
Half the size of a VW bug.
Yep. And so we're starting to see some more bears swim down the river here. They've kind of made a circle. They're making their rounds right now. So soon they'll be a bit closer, give us a better view. But I believe we just saw 435 swimming down the river, and she's a bear that's returned recently in the last week. So as the salmon swim up the river and they pass through the Brooks River, generally in August, the bears, they follow them into these small tributary creeks that flow into Lake Brooks. So you don't typically see a whole lot of bears on the Brooks River in August. Bears like 435 Holly, that's what they did. That's why they disappeared. And now that the salmon have returned, they've also followed them back.
So in a way, they're following their stomachs.
Following their noses, following their stomachs, absolutely.
So, yeah, here at Katmai National Park, and especially at Brooks Camp, we have this very unique opportunity to observe these wild brown bears throughout the summer. And because we've been doing this for several years, we're also able to know their life history. In some ways, it's like a soap opera that unfolds before us in the summertime. It's very unique to this place because in other areas, you don't necessarily just observe bears, and you're able to know them by name and know who their mother is, or even possibly their father is, due to genetic studies. But here we have that unique opportunity to make that connection, which is what makes Brooks Camp so special. We know of these bears, but they are a wild population. We do not go in and help these bears, except if there are except if they're hurt due to human causes, which is in the case of Divot. That's a sow who has returned with 3 spring cubs this year, and it's very exciting because a few years ago she was seen with a wolf snare around her neck. And the Park Service and Fish and Wildlife, they came together, and they darted her, and they removed that snare. And it's really fun to see that she's been successful even after that incident. Let's see.
Actually, she was one of the bear families that closed the bridge down.
Let's see.
And so, especially right now, the lower river is a really great place to see sows with cubs. There are still bears at the falls, which is not typical.
Yep.
It's really a kind of an anomaly for this year. We've had an incredibly large and long sockeye salmon run. We saw sockeye salmon jumping the falls all the way through August, and then we also had a very strong silver salmon run. And so even if the bears haven't learned to stay at the Brooks Falls all through August, they adapt, and they take advantage of that opportunity to capitalize on really high nutrient, high in fat, pre-spawned salmon.
Even just this morning, as we're seeing the schools of red salmon right down in the lower river, we can actually still pick out a few that are still silver. So there's still fish that's really good eating. You can see for the bears, if we're looking at this one right now, first they strip off that skin, and that's really the best part for them. The skin, the eggs, and the brain, that's the most nutritious. And so in July we can actually observe them only picking the best parts. But as we go into these leaner months where there's less food available, they're trying to eat majority of that fish to pack on the pounds to survive.
And of course, you say the best part. also happens to be the parts that we don't eat. We throw away the skin and the eggs and the brain a lot of time.
I don't know. I like the salmon skin on the salmon skin sushi.
Right.
But I can't eat it raw. I have to eat it deep fried. I think that's the way that I like my salmon skin.
But for the same reason that we throw it away, it's so high in fat, it's so greasy. That's why they like it, because it can really, they pack on the pounds. Not necessarily what we want to do all the time, but for their survival, that depends on how much weight they can put on.
It's probably a reason why they have such a luxurious coat as well.
All those vitamins and minerals.
Those omega-3s, which I take capsules for so that my hair grows nice and shiny and long. Yep. It's an incredible resource, and it's so unique to Alaska. Where else can you find wild populations of salmon and bears and have the opportunity to observe?
And, of course, wild salmon used to run throughout the West Coast. It's kind of been a story of the sockeye salmon, the story of the salmon in general, the Pacific salmon. It's kind of been a legacy of loss. We've had, there used to be areas like this
everywhere. One of my favorite places, Idaho, down in the Sawtooths, they have a lake called Redfish Lake, and they used to have a prolific sockeye salmon run.
That's why it was called
Redfish Lake.
Redfish Lake.
You could step into the lake, and you could be stepping on fish. Very similar to what's happening here now, as the salmon are spawning out and they're dying, and bears are bringing them to shore. I had the unfortunate experience of almost stepping on a spawned out salmon. It did not smell very good, and would not have liked that on my shoes.
So by comparing, the two places like Redfish Lake and Brooks River, we can see why it's so important that we protect places like this.
Absolutely, to protect it for generations, unknown to us, for them to enjoy. I hope that a healthy population of bears continues in Katmai. Of course, we do see fluctuations in the population. There was comments about, is our bear population, is it increasing, is it decreasing? We're not seeing as many bears as we have in years past. But it fluctuates. That's the progression of things in the natural world. Is even without our hand in it, populations are seen to grow and decline, and that's normal.
So in some previous years, we've had up to 100 bears using the river. Right now, we've got around 50 bears using the river. And like you said, that's just kind of a natural fluctuation in population. Another thing to remember, if you've kind of remarked that not as many bears have been seen this season along the river or at the Brooks Falls area, the timing of the salmon run has really affected what bears we're seeing and when. We have the same amount of bears using the river this year as we did last year, but they haven't necessarily stacked up at the falls in as great of numbers as often as last year, for instance. And that's because we've had so many salmon running so constantly. A lot of, generally we'll have salmon come up in pulses, and they'll ride the tide in, and some of them will be trapped by commercial fishing, and so we'll get these large pulses of fish. We count the number of jumping fish per minute once every half an hour. In years previous, we counted maybe 200, 300 fish jumping in a minute on one day, and then in the following days, we'd have much less than that. So these really pronounced pulses. This year, it's been a little different. We've had more of a constant flow of salmon, maybe 100, 200 fish per minute for weeks at a time. And because of that, the bears don't need to spend quite as much time to fill up on the fish. They can come and spend 20 minutes fishing, eat all they can eat, and then they go off and take a nap. So what you see is still the same number of bears, but not all at the same time.
We wish that bears would come on a schedule. That's
It would make the play-by-play a lot easier.
if those 6 individual groups of bears were here right now, that would be perfect. There's a lot of salmon right here for them to enjoy, but they're not abiding by our time schedule. It's because we were late. That's what it was. We were supposed to start at 9, and we started a little later.
So, right when we first got here, we had some bears swimming upriver, and it seems like maybe some of those same bears are swimming back downriver. But so when we first got here, there was 435 Holly, 409 Bead Nose was here, and then another unidentified sow with looked like a big yearling cub. Could have been 273. Could have been another bear. I'm not really very convinced that it was 273. Didn't quite look like her, but she did have that real big cub.
There was a guess that the bear could have possibly been, let's see, it was
94.
94.
Yeah. Which is kind of a notoriously difficult to identify bear.
Absolutely. If you read about her in the ID book, it specifically says this bear can be hard to identify.
First sentence, right? Yeah. So if you're new to the cams and you want to kind of hone the technique of identifying these bears, I would invite you to check out the Bear ID book. It's a free download. You can find it right above the text chat or on our website. You could just Google Katmai National Park Bear ID book, and it'll be the first link there. And it's a really great resource. It's got pictures and descriptions of many of the bears that use the river, so you can compare what you're seeing on the computer screen to what's in the book and try to narrow down what individual bear you're seeing. And we do that here at the park not just because it's fun, and it is a lot of fun, but you also learn a lot about the individual brown bears. You get to follow their life histories, follow the kind of soap opera of the bears here, and you also from that learn a lot about just brown bears in general. We learn new things all the time about how they behave, how they interact with each other.
So earlier, with these 2 bears, we saw a interesting interaction. The cub approached the mother with a fish, or actually the mother had a fish and the cub approached, and it looked like she actually gave him a little slap. Him or her. It's hard to we haven't identified the sex of the cub, and it looks like right now they're just fishing on their own. At this time of year, there's a lot of easy fishing. The fishing techniques adapt for the summer, throughout the summer. In June and July, with a lot of the fish up at the falls, we see a lot of the sit and wait technique, or the stand and wait techniques in the jacuzzi and up on the lip of the falls. So sit and wait is where a bear sits in the pool and waits for fish to swim right through his paws, or right underneath them. The stand and wait would be seen up at the top of the falls, where a bear would stand and wait for a fish to jump directly into its mouth. And I thought it was, impossible to happen, but it actually happens quite a bit. And it's very gregarious fishing technique. A lot of our visitors come to get that photo. But here in the fall, especially in the lower river, we see bears that begin to snorkel for fish. So just like us snorkeling in hopefully warmer waters, not as cold as here, you see them with their ears just peeking out, looking for spawned out fish or even dead fish to eat. They can, yep.
And those spawned out fish, I didn't quite understand this at first when I first heard about the fall and how it would go. As the fish begin to die, they become very, very low in energy. They don't even swim away from you necessarily. They might just try to hold their place in the water. You could walk by and pick one right up. And so that's basically what the bears do. They swim by, they see a fish that's not really moving away from it, and it can just swipe it right up with its jaws or with its paws.
And the bears at this time of year, well, just throughout the whole summer, you see them just collecting calories and pounds, and that's in preparation for the winter. Because the food source isn't always available, you know, this food source is not constant. It will
Very
end
short
this
window, yeah.
This fall. Soon there won't be even any spawned out fish, and that when that time occurs, they'll start to prepare the den. They'll go up to Dumpling Mountain, or even sometimes as far as the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, or even beyond. We haven't done much studies on where the bears actually go, but we have seen a lot of dens up here on Dumpling Mountain. But they'll just go into this hyper state of eating, just eating. And I sometimes feel that way, you know, especially on really great meals like Thanksgiving and
Right.
Christmas. There's just these certain meals that you can only get at that amount at that time.
You gotta take advantage, you gotta pack it all in. Sometimes I feel like my food is gonna run away from me if I don't eat it all really fast. So I would imagine that's maybe how the bears feel a little bit. And we call that hyperphagia. When they go into that hyper eating mode. So we'll start seeing them eat more of the fish.
And of course, when you eat a lot, what better way to digest that food than a nap? And so September is just notorious for bear jams here in Brooks Camp, because after their long bout of eating, they'll just curl up in a little belly hole and take a nap. And the belly hole, I think this is one of the most interesting things to see on the trail here. You see them, they excavate just a little bit of the ground there so that their belly can fit into that depression. So rather than being uncomfortable with your belly kind of protruding into the ground and being a little elevated,
Squishing it.
they have the opportunity to sleep and digest and then get right back to eating.
So if you ever feel uncomfortable after a big Thanksgiving meal, just go dig a belly hole and lay down in that.
So all this in preparation for the winter. And here at Brooks Camp, we're also starting to prepare for the winter. Camp will close on September 17th. And the bears will move in, as more and more bears appear to eat that spawned out salmon, and we'll be leaving for the winter season.
And another part of the kind of notorious bear jam activity that happens here is the bears that have been coming here year after year. They know that we're about to leave. So they kind of start pushing into camp more and more as more bears show up on the lower river here. It gets a little crowded, and they want to go take a nap. They don't want to go too far. So they might even take a nap right under the platform. They might take a nap real close to camp. And the bears that have been coming here for years, they know that right around now they're going to start to see less people. They're going to probably have more free reign over the camp area. So they start pushing in more and more and more and more bear jams start happening.
Are they able to come up here if they want?
So
Much work.
right now we are on a platform elevated above the river, and for the most part this is a place where we can view safely. And
I know, but if there's no people around, do you think go up here? No. Doesn't make sense for some.
So we're actually doing a live broadcast where we're talking to the camera. So yeah, no worries. It's okay. It happens all the time. So when we're done, we can totally talk.
so we are on the lower river platform right now at Brooks Camp, and we are surrounded by lots of other visitors who are right here with us, and they're joining in on our play-by-play. So if you hear us answer some questions from them, please. No. And so visiting Brooks Camp, it is quite remote here at Katmai National Park. We're located in southwest Alaska, just at the base of the Alaskan Peninsula. And the only way to get to Brooks Camp, and really a majority of places in Katmai, is by plane or boat.
Mostly plane.
Mostly plane. It would be it would take a lot of effort to get here by boat. But there are trips that you can plan, and you can book plane flights to Brooks Camp and also other areas in the park where you can see coastal brown bears. Amalek Bay, Hallow Bay, Crosswinds are popular areas to visit, and you can easily get to by float plane. But here, this is the most popular place in Katmai to view brown bears.
And that's kind of for two reasons, right? There's number one, there's probably more brown bears here than a lot of those other places. More predictable number of bears. It's also the only developed area in the park. So this is the only place where there's an actual developed campground. There's a lodge. And in addition to that, there's no other place in the park, and really very few other places in the world where bears are studied and known individually so closely. So you can, like you're doing now, watch on Explore, kind of get to know the individuals, and then come and see them in person.
And if you're familiar with our bear stories, you'll know that majority of our dominant bears are seen at Brooks Falls. And here in the lower river, this is where we see more family groups and independent sows and some large boars that do come in this area. But for the most part, there is a separation between the different bears. They are not very social animals. They tolerate each other because there's such a large food source here. But for the most part, it's just toleration. It's not necessarily hanging out with each other. Although it was very interesting to see a few, I think about a week ago, we did see bear 503.
503 and 151.
They're an exciting pair to watch. 151 is particularly playful. He's been seen with several bears play fighting. But then when you see them at the falls, if you see a bear get too close to 151 when he's fishing, he definitely gets that aggression. So it isn't it's all in the act of survival, of getting enough food, getting enough resources, being able to sleep, and being able to mate to exist.
So they're always competing, and even when we do see them playing and kind of looks like they're just having fun, they're hanging out together, really they're still acting to ensure their survival. They're training for a time when they might have to actually fight with another bear outside of the scope of play. So anytime you see a bear playing, it's practicing those motions of swatting, clawing, or biting at another bear or animal. It's all part of a bear's kind of training for the harsh realities of living here. So this bear here that's snorkeling, I believe is the same sow with one cub that we saw earlier. We're not quite sure who it is. If you have any guesses as to who you think this might be, throw it in the, enter it in the chat. Love to hear what you think. Oh, just went for a full dive.
And she was successful.
You probably can't pick up the noise on the cam because we're mic'd up, so you can just hear our voices, but a lot of bone cracking and just really pretty gruesome sounds.
It's also a lot of sounds from the bear, just like when we get into a meal, like
That's right. I don't think I'm quite as noisy though when I eat. I'm pretty noisy.
And I don't know them all. But I don't know them anymore too.
So the bears do swim under the bridge at times. Some bears don't mind swimming under the bridge. Some bears like to walk around it. It just kind of shows the individual personalities of these animals. And this is the cub of that sow. Again, maybe 94, maybe 273, maybe a different bear that we're not recognizing, maybe a bear that we don't have a number for.
It's so interesting to see how much these bears change just in a couple of months. One, the weight gain from all of that salmon, but two, their coat. In the springtime, when we see them, they're very patchy in fur distribution.
And they're shedding their summer coat and growing in their winter coat, and that's why we see those patches, those shed marks, and we can sometimes use those to help identify the bear.
And it's difficult, now in the fall, because all of those distinguishing features that we were using earlier, like scars and shed pattern, is no longer visible to us. So, to me, they all look like brown roly-polies.
Big, brown, furry, fat bears.
But there's still certain features that you can use to distinguish different bears. One is the profile of the bear, the way that their nose can shape in. It could be dish-shaped or it can be very flat, which we call Roman noses. Also is just certain coloration. There are some bears that are extremely light, and even though their fur darkens up in the fall, they are still a lot lighter than other bears, like bear 435.
435, 480, both very light bears.
One of my favorite features to distinguish 409 is with her really blonde-tipped ears. And
yeah, really vibrantly blonde.
also body shape is one. Bears sometimes have just really round behinds, rounder than others.
I don't know who you could be referring to.
32, maybe. And also this loss of features as well. There are some bears bears, not bears, bears that that have just a little bit of their ears clipped off, or even missing a whole ear. But all of these features are things that you should look for if you want to identify the bears to the individual. However, you have to be better at taking notes. It's not something I'm not really good at. Is just identifying. Okay, at this day I saw this bear and it had this types of features, and being able to see that change.
Right. So next year you can look at your notes and say, this bear also has that going on at this time.
So right now, doing a sweep of the river, it looks like we have five bears that can be seen from the lower river platform.
So this is the mother of the cub that we were just looking at. And upriver,
and how incredible is this to be able to stand on this platform and see this many bears?
not very many places in the world you can do that.
And although we know that Brooks Camp is very difficult to get to, we thank you guys for joining us on the webcams. This is truly a unique opportunity for us to share the resources that we have in Katmai National Park. But there are over 400 different National Park Service units in America, and I'm sure that there's one right next to you. If you just go onto the National Park Service website, you can see the sites that are next to your area. And if you would like a little help in getting there, if you have a young one in your family, a third grader, there is a third
or fourth grade. Is it third grade?
Let's see. You now have made me think
Made you
about if
question it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
And let's see. Or if you are over 62, you can get a senior pass. It costs $10, but it'll give you free admission to any of the public federal lands, and also 50% off camping. And yes, I misspoke. Fourth graders. If
okay.
you have a fourth grader in your home, you can go onto everykidinthepark.gov, and they print out a voucher, and they have free admission to any of the national park lands with their families for the entire year. It's a new program, and it's really exciting. It won't necessarily help you out here at Katmai because we don't collect fees. You just need to make the trip out here. It is free. I'm sorry, I just had to plug those cards because they're...
Well, it's good information to know. If you got a fourth grader, you should definitely take advantage of that this year.
It gives you something to look forward to when you're in the fourth grade, right? So directly under the bridge, that is where salmon do pool up sometimes. So you can see some successful fishing right underneath the bridge. It was very similar to us in the early summer. You could see a lot of visitors and a lot of rangers fishing just below the bridge because that was an easy fishing hole. I would like to call it the ranger's jacuzzi in that
like
sense.
That. I don't think it's quite as productive as the actual jacuzzi, though.
Having to fish with a line and hook is a lot more difficult than being able to grab them with your bare hands. And you can just see...
With your bare hands?
Yeah, bare paws, sorry. Bare paws. And it's just amazing to see that adaptation in bears. When trying to grab a fish of my own, they just slip out of my hands and they fall all over the kitchen floor. Whereas for a bear, it's absolutely no problem for them to just hold on to that fish and rip them apart with their teeth and claws.
It's pretty rare to see them lose a fish once they have it. It does happen.
It does happen.
But pretty rare.
Oh.
So here's this cub, and we'll see if it is going to be like Mom and swim under the bridge, or if it's going to prefer to try to pass on the land. Looks a little bit unsure of what to do. So, as they grow up, cubs learn from Mom, and looks like he or she is a little bit, just a little hesitant. Like, yeah, I saw my mom do this, but I don't know.
I think he or she needs to see it again.
Yeah, little repetition. You're gonna play it safe.
Oh. If you were here at Brooks Camp right now, you would hear the sound of bush planes coming into camp, the glaucous winged gulls being loud as ever, bears chomping away, and visitors' cameras going on rapid fire as they catch that perfect shot.
That's right.
Oh, he's right there.
So if you've never been to Brooks Camp, you're not really familiar with the setup. Can't quite see that one from there. We're on an elevated platform, so it's about 10 feet in the air, and it gives us some separation from the bears. It's not necessarily that the bears can't get up here if they didn't really want to. The key, though, is that we don't give them any reason to come up here.
So in Brooks Camp, when you go to bear school, you learn the rules, which is 1, you carry absolutely no food on your person in camp. No food is allowed outside of hard-sided structures in the food cache when you're 1.5 miles within camp. In the event that a bear does attain food, they'll start to relate people and these platforms with food, and that might bode their curiosity to come up here. But we've had a pretty good track record here at Brooks Camp.
Just as a few other bears disappear from our line of view, another one decides to cooperate and come in.
Thank you for arranging this. So something that was said in the comments that I'd like to highlight is that Saturday, September 24th is National Public Lands Day, and many park units offer, all of the park units offer free admission to the national parks then. So I hope that you come and join or go and enjoy your local national park during National Public Lands Day.
I did notice one other little comment in the question in the comments section. Do all bears know how to swim? And it's interesting We get that question from visitors quite a bit too, and it seems like they do. Spring cubs, even though they don't do very well in the fast-moving water in the rapids, seems that they are able to swim pretty much right away. They learn from mom. They see her swimming around, and as long as the water is not too strong, they can swim out in the lower river as well. We've seen bears swimming way out in Neck Lake, so they're really strong swimmers. They can withstand that current up in the upper river far better than a human could. Kind of shows how powerful and adaptable they are. We've also seen bears out on the coast swim out to small islands up to 5 miles off the coast in that really rough water, and they swim out there to capitalize on some food sources that other animals that can't swim that far don't have access to, like gull eggs or other marine mammals.
So they're opportunistic in their food sources.
Very opportunistic.
Kind of like we are.
Definitely.
Actually, we have it a little easy with our available with fast food being available in a lot of places. But yeah, bears, they are. They want, the easiest form of food possible.
The fast food.
The fast food, yes. So if it would be very unfortunate if a bear were to access food, which would be really easy to get, and depending on what it is, it could be very high in nutrition. So that's one of the main reasons why we have our food. Not laws, but food guidelines here at Brooks Camp. So it's just another beautiful day in Katmai National Park and at Brooks Camp. Right now, we are at the lower river platform looking at several bears fishing along the lower Brooks River. They're slowly moving in and out, just snorkeling around looking for red sockeye salmon, majority of which are spawned.
And we've seen quite a few times the bear not quite eat all the fish, like the skin, the eggs. We call that high grading. It might seem a little bit wasteful, but it's really not. They're acting as distributors for the rest of the ecosystem. They'll tear off the part that they want, the high fat content part of the fish, and then the rest will be eaten by other bears, or like we're going to see now, a gull or another kind of bird. We have a lot of bald eagles along the Brooks River, and they're capitalizing on the leftovers from the bears, as are the gulls and this gull here. What doesn't get eaten by the bears or the birds, it might get washed up onto shore, it might be brought up into the woods by the bear, and those nutrients will go into the ground and be absorbed by trees and bushes and other vegetation, so it can help the trees and plants grow. If it stays in the water, it will allow zooplankton populations to really bloom, especially the salmon that spawn out and die and just wash around in the river and into the lake. And that zooplankton acts as a primary food source for the salmon fry, the next generation of salmon that are born and grow up in this area. So we've, for the moment, seen the bears kind of dissipate, move to other areas of the river. So we'll call it a day for now. We hope you guys can keep watching, keep finding your park through the webcams, and we'd invite you to visit other parks as well in our centennial year.
And if you're available this afternoon, we will be having a ranger live chat, which is a little different from what we're doing right now. In play-by-plays, we narrate what we're seeing on the river at the time, but live chats are created around a certain topic. And this afternoon, we will have Ranger Becca talking about geology, the geology of Brooks River and Katmai at 3 p.m. So if you are interested in asking about the geology of Katmai, the geology of Brooks River, and how that may affect the bears, there's a Google form doc link that's on the website right now. It's featured in the comments. We would love for you to be a part of that, and that will be at 3 o'clock Alaska time.
So enter your questions in there, and as Ranger Becca and Ranger Daniel talk about geology, they'll be able to answer your questions kind of as they go. Do a little question and answer session. So thanks for joining us today. And again, we hope you can join us again later this afternoon, 3 o'clock Alaska time.
Okay.
And we'll talk to you then.
Have a very nice day.